The heavy metal chains around Kira's wrists had worn deep marks into her skin. She pulled another chunk of glowing crystal from the rock wall and dropped it into the cart beside her. The purple light from the crystals made everything look strange and scary in the dark tunnels of Zephyria 7. 6 months had passed since the hegemony ships caught her transport vessel. 6 months since her life changed from helping sick people on distant planets to digging in these horrible mines. The memories still hurt. Her ship had been carrying medicine to colonies that needed help. Now those people were probably dead and she was here, trapped underground like a rat. "Move faster, human," shouted Grax, one of the Thakmor guards. His reptile-like face twisted into an ugly smile as he raised his energy whip. "Your kind is weak. You should be grateful we let you live." Kira kept her head down and worked faster. Fighting back only made things worse. She had learned that lesson when they first brought her here. The scars on her back still reminded her every day. Around her, other slaves worked in silence. There was Moth, a whisper whose people could speak with their minds. The hegemony had put a metal collar around his thin neck that stopped his telepathy. His large, sad eyes looked empty now, like part of him had died. Next to him worked Zix, a Kythera with 4 arms that made her perfect for mining work. But her green insect-like shell was cracked in many places from beatings. She used to tell jokes to keep everyone's spirits up. Now she barely spoke. "The crystals must flow," Grax said, walking between the workers. "The hegemony needs them for their ships. Without these quantum stones, there is no faster-than-light travel. Without faster-than-light travel, there is no empire. You slaves make the empire strong." Kira wanted to throw her pick at his ugly head. Instead, she kept digging. The quantum resonance crystals were everything to the hegemony. These purple stones let their ships jump between star systems in seconds instead of years. Control the crystals, control space travel. Control space travel, control the galaxy. The worst part wasn't the hard work or the beatings. It was watching her friends disappear. Last week they took Jin, a human man who had been here longer than Kira. He had tried to organize the workers, sharing extra food and teaching others how to avoid the worst guards. The hegemony didn't like that. They dragged him to the conditioning center. When Jin came back 3 days later, he wasn't Jin anymore. He walked like a robot and stared at nothing. When Kira tried to talk to him, he just said, "Work makes us useful. The hegemony is good. I am happy to serve." His voice sounded flat and dead. That was what they did to slaves who caused trouble. They put machines on your head and scrambled your brain until you became a happy robot. No more thoughts of escape. No more dreams of home. Just endless work and fake smiles. "My turn is next week," Kira whispered to herself. A guard had told her yesterday. 7 more days, then they would take away everything that made her human. She looked at the other workers. How many of them had been fighters once? How many had been doctors, teachers, parents, friends? Now they were just bodies that moved crystals from one place to another. "Kira," a soft voice said. It was Sol Neth, an old whisper who somehow avoided getting his mind wiped. He was dying slowly, his blue skin turning gray, but his eyes still held intelligence. "Come closer." She moved next to him, pretending to help with a heavy crystal. "There are stories," he whispered. "Ships with strange markings have been seen in nearby star systems. The hegemony is worried. They send more patrols, but some ships don't come back." Kira's heart jumped. What kind of ships? No one knows. But the hegemony forces that survive these encounters, they are afraid. They speak of a ghost ship that appears from nothing and destroys everything in its path. They call it... He paused and looked around carefully. They call its captain the Reaper. "That's just stories," Kira said, but she wanted to believe. Maybe. But 3 days ago, a supply ship arrived here. The pilot was drunk and scared. He said an entire hegemony base on Kepler 6 was destroyed. No survivors, just empty buildings and burning ships. Solneth coughed and blue blood came from his mouth. The pilot said something else. He said they found a message burned into the metal of the command center. It was written in Human Basic Script. Kira stopped breathing. Human Basic Script was the simple writing system all human colonies used. If someone was leaving messages in human writing, what did it say? "We are coming for our people." Before Kira could ask more questions, Grax's whip cracked near their heads. "No talking." Back to work. They separated and returned to digging, but Kira's mind was racing. Could there really be free humans out there? Humans who had ships and weapons? Humans who were fighting back? She had given up hope months ago. The hegemony was too strong, too organized. They controlled hundreds of star systems and had been in power for thousands of years. What could a few scattered humans do against that? But what if Salneth was right? What if somewhere out there her people had not given up? The day passed slowly. Kira filled her quota of crystals and received her small portion of food paste. As she lay on her thin sleeping mat that night, she looked up at the small window in their sleeping chamber. Through the dirty glass she could see stars. One of those stars was Earth, the human homeworld. She had never been there, but her parents had told her stories. Green fields, blue oceans, and cities full of people who lived free lives. The hegemony had conquered Earth decades ago. Everyone said all the humans there were dead or enslaved. But what if they were wrong? Kira closed her eyes and tried to remember her father's face. He had been an engineer who always said, "When someone tells you something is impossible, that just means they haven't found the right solution yet." He had taught her to fix machines, to think about problems from different angles, to never give up. "I won't give up, Dad," she whispered to the darkness. Somewhere above her, the stars continued their ancient dance. And perhaps, just perhaps, one of those distant lights carried a ship with humans who remembered what freedom meant. As sleep finally took her, Kira dreamed of ships appearing from the void, guns blazing, and a voice on the radio saying, "We're here to take you home." She didn't know that her dream was about to become reality. In the cold space above Zephyria 7, something moved between the stars. Something that had been hunting hegemony ships for months. Something that was very, very angry. The Reaper was coming. The conditioning center stood at the heart of the mining facility like a metal tumor. Kira had walked past it every day for months, but today was different. Today the guards would drag her inside and steal her mind. She sat in her cell, counting the hours. Around her, other prisoners tried to sleep, but she could hear them crying softly in the darkness. Tomorrow, after the machines finished with her brain, she wouldn't care about their tears anymore. She wouldn't care about anything. "Kira?" The voice was barely a whisper. Salneth had crawled over to her sleeping mat. The old whisper was getting weaker every day, but his eyes still burned with intelligence. "I need to tell you something important before they take you." She leaned closer. The guards were lazy at night, but talking could still get them beaten. "Your species," he said, his blue lips barely moving. "The hegemony fears you more than any other race they have conquered." "That's crazy," Kira whispered back. "Humans are weak. We can't read minds like your people. We're not strong like the Kithara. We don't have natural weapons or armor." Salneth shook his head slowly. "That is exactly why they fear you." "I don't understand. Every other species in the galaxy has one main strength. My people have telepathy. The Kithara have their forearms and hard shells. The Vorthan can live in poison gas. The hegemony knows how to fight these abilities. They build machines to block telepathy. They make weapons that crack Kithara shells. They create gases that kill even the Vorthan." He coughed, and more blue blood stained his lips. "But humans are different. You adapt. When the environment changes, you change with it. When the enemy learns your tactics, you create new ones. You refuse to accept that anything is impossible. That makes you unpredictable, and the hegemony hates unpredictable things." Kira thought about her father's lessons. He had always said that humans survived because they could learn and change faster than any other species. When the Ice Age came to Earth long ago, humans didn't evolve thicker fur like other animals. Instead, they made clothes and fire. "The hegemony's strategy with humans is simple," Salneth continued. "Scatter them across the galaxy. Keep them isolated in small groups. Never let them organize or share knowledge. Because if humans ever worked together with their full potential, what? They would tear down the hegemony in a generation." A cold hand gripped Kira's heart. "How many humans are left? No one knows. The hegemony destroyed most of your colonies and took the survivors to different sectors. You might be the last free-thinking human in this entire region. Everyone else has been conditioned or killed." The weight of this knowledge crushed down on her. All those stories her parents told about human colonies among the stars, all those dreams of finding other humans someday, all of it was gone. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because tomorrow they will try to break you. They will put machines on your head and try to make you forget what you are. But I want you to remember something." His dying eyes looked directly into hers. "Being human is not about what you can do. It's about never giving up no matter how impossible things seem." The next morning came too soon. 2 Thakmor guards dragged Kira from her cell and marched her through the facility. Other slaves stopped working to watch her pass. Some looked sad. Others looked relieved that it wasn't their turn. The conditioning center was a white, clean building that felt wrong after months in the dirty mines. Inside, machines hummed and blinked with colored lights. The air smelled like chemicals and fear. Dr. Vextar, the head of the facility, waited for her. He was a tall, thin alien with gray skin and too many eyes. His species, the Nexari, were known for their intelligence and cruelty. "Ah, the troublesome human," he said in his smooth voice. "Your brain scans show remarkable resistance to authority. This will be an interesting challenge." They strapped Kira to a metal chair and placed a helmet covered in wires on her head. The machine began to hum. "The process is quite elegant," Dr. Vextar explained as he adjusted controls. "We don't destroy your memories completely. Instead, we change how you feel about them. Your love for freedom becomes love for servitude. Your anger at injustice becomes gratitude for order. You remain yourself but better, happier." "Go to hell," Kira said, "such spirit." "Don't worry, we'll fix that." The machine began its work. Kira felt electricity course through her head, and her vision filled with swirling colors. Memories started playing like movies in her mind. But they felt different, wrong. She saw herself as a child. But instead of her father teaching her to fix machines, she remembered him teaching her to obey authority. Instead of her mother telling her stories about human heroes, she remembered lessons about the greatness of the hegemony. "No," she whispered, fighting against the false memories. That's not how it happened. But the machine was strong and she was tired. The real memories began to fade like old photographs left in the sun. Soon she would believe that the hegemony had always been her friend. Soon she would smile while they worked her to death. Just as her resistance was breaking, alarms began to scream throughout the facility. Dr. Vextar looked up in surprise. "What is that noise?" A guard rushed into the room. "Sir, we have a problem. Ships are attacking the orbital stations." "Ships? What ships?" "Send the defense fleet." "Sir, the defense fleet is gone." Kira felt the machine's grip on her mind weaken as Dr. Vextar focused on the emergency. Through the building speakers, she heard explosions and shouting. "How many ships are attacking us?" Dr. Vextar demanded. Just one, sir." The doctor's many eyes widened. "One ship destroyed our entire defense fleet?" "Yes, sir. And sir?" "It's heading for the planet." Dr. Vextar turned back to Kira, but she was no longer strapped to the chair. While he was distracted, she had used the tricks her father taught her to slip the loose restraints. The helmet lay broken on the floor. "Impossible," the doctor said. "No one could escape those bonds." Kira smiled for the first time in months. "You forgot something about humans, Doc. We adapt." She grabbed a heavy tool from the nearby table and hit the doctor in the head. He fell down unconscious. The guard reached for his weapon, but Kira was already moving. She had watched these guards for months, learning their habits and weaknesses. The energy pistol was hers before he could draw it. "Thanks for the gun," she said, and shot him with his own weapon. Outside, she could hear more explosions getting closer. Through the windows, she saw fires burning in the distance and ships flying overhead. The Reaper was here. As Kira ran toward the exit, she passed other conditioning rooms. Inside, she could hear the screams of prisoners having their minds destroyed. The machines were still running. She couldn't save them all, but she could try to save some. Kira shot the control panels of every machine she could find. Sparks flew and the humming stopped. In some rooms, prisoners looked up with confused but clear eyes as the false memories faded. "What's happening?" one of them asked. "Freedom," Kira said. "Freedom is happening." She ran toward the main facility, toward her fellow slaves, toward whatever was falling from the sky. The conditioning had failed, but something else was starting. Something that would change everything. The sky was burning. Kira ran through the facility's corridors as pieces of destroyed hegemony ships fell like metal rain. Through the windows, she could see the orbital battle ending. What had been 12 massive warships was now a field of twisted wreckage. The single attacking vessel hung in space like a dark angel, untouched and victorious. She had never seen anything like it. The ship was clearly built from hegemony technology, but it had been changed, modified. Where the original designs were smooth and elegant, this vessel was covered in sharp angles and extra weapons. It looked like someone had taken a beautiful sword and turned it into a meat cleaver. "Impossible," she whispered. "How could one ship destroy an entire fleet?" Her question was answered when she reached the main mining chamber. The huge room was filled with panicking guards and confused slaves. On the wall-mounted screens that usually showed work quotas, emergency broadcasts were playing. "All units, be advised," a hegemony commander was saying, his reptilian face twisted with fear. The attacking vessel is using our own technology against us. It knows the weak points in our shields. It's jamming our communications with our own codes. How is this possible? The answer came in the form of falling stars. 7 bright lights streaked down from the ship above, burning through the atmosphere like comets. But these weren't meteorites. They were drop pods. The first pod crashed through the facility's main entrance with a sound like thunder. Smoke poured out as the metal door slid open. For a moment, nothing happened. Guards raised their weapons and slaves pressed against the walls. Then he stepped out. The figure that emerged from the smoke looked human, but wrong somehow. Taller than any man Kira had ever seen, wearing armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. His face was hidden behind a helmet, but his movements were too fast, too precise. When he turned his head, she could see red lights where his eyes should be. "Target identified," he said in a voice that sounded human but carried an electronic echo. "Hegemony mining facility. Slave population confirmed. Beginning liberation protocol." The guards opened fire immediately. Energy beams that could melt steel struck the armored figure dead center. The blast should have turned him into ash. Instead, they simply vanished, absorbed by his armor without leaving a mark. Ineffective, he noted, almost sounding bored. Hegemony energy weapons, Mark 7 series. Countermeasures active, he moved like lightning. One moment he was standing in the doorway, the next he was among the guards. His hands moved in quick, precise strikes. Each touch sent a guard flying across the room. In 10 seconds, 12 armed Thakmor lay unconscious on the ground. "I am Marcus Kane," he announced to the room. "Human Reclamation Corps. You are safe now." More pods crashed through other parts of the facility. From each one came another enhanced human, each one a walking nightmare for the hegemony forces. Kira watched through a security screen as a woman in flowing armor moved through the barracks like a ghost, appearing behind guards and dropping them before they could react. In another section, a massive man in heavy armor walked through a wall of gunfire as if it were rain, his own weapons turning vehicles into scrap metal. But it was Marcus who drew her attention. He wasn't just fighting the guards. He was systematically dismantling the entire facility's defenses. When a security door tried to lock him out, he placed his hand on the control panel and the door opened. When automated turrets descended from the ceiling, he looked at them and they shut down. "How is he doing that?" Moth asked. The whisper had found his way to Kira's side, his telepathy collar sparking and broken. "He's not just human," Kira realized. "He's something more." Marcus walked through the chamber and the slaves parted before him like water. When he reached the center of the room, he removed his helmet. The face underneath was human, but marked by scars and surgical implants. His eyes glowed with an inner red light that made Kira's skin crawl. "Citizens of the galaxy," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "You have been enslaved by the hegemony. You have been told that resistance is futile. You have been taught that freedom is impossible. These are lies." He gestured to the destroyed guards around him. "My name is Marcus Kane. I was once like you, a prisoner, a slave, forgotten by the galaxy. But I chose to become something else. Something capable of taking freedom by force." One of the Kithira workers, Zix, raised a trembling hand. "What are you?" "You look human, but—" "I am what humanity becomes when it has nothing left to lose," Marcus replied. "When the hegemony scattered our people across the galaxy, some of us chose to fight back. We enhanced ourselves, changed ourselves, made ourselves into weapons capable of destroying everything they built." Kira stepped forward, her stolen energy pistol forgotten in her hand. "How many of you are there?" Marcus's glowing eyes focused on her. "You escaped the conditioning chamber. Impressive." He studied her face for a moment. "There are 7 of us on this ship, 43 in the entire Corps. We are the last of the enhanced humans. Last? The enhancement process kills most subjects. Those who survive live for only a few years. We burn bright and die young, but we use that time to free our people." The implications hit Kira like a physical blow. These weren't just soldiers. They were dying warriors who had sacrificed their humanity to save what remained of their species. "Why?" she asked. "Why do this to yourselves?" "Because someone has to," Marcus said simply. "The hegemony believes humans are just another conquered species. They are wrong. We are the species that looked at the impossible and said, 'Not today.'" Another enhanced human entered the chamber. This one was a woman with short black hair and armor designed for stealth. "Marcus, we have a problem. Long-range sensors show a hegemony battle fleet approaching. 50 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. They'll be here in 6 hours. Expected, Marcus replied. We knew this would draw their attention. How many slaves can we evacuate? Our ship can carry maybe 200. There are over 1,000 people in this facility. Kira felt her heart sink. After all this hope, they still couldn't save everyone. I volunteer to stay, Zik said suddenly. I'm old and injured. Take the young ones. No, Moth added. I'll stay too. My people value wisdom over individual life. Other voices joined in. Slaves who had given up hope minutes ago were now volunteering to stay behind so others could escape. But Kira could see the pain in Marcus's glowing eyes. Even with all his power, he couldn't save them all. There might be another way, she said, the words coming out before she could stop them. Marcus turned to her. Explain. You said your enhancements let you interface with hegemony technology. What if you could do more than just shut down their systems? What if you could turn their entire network against them? Impossible. The quantum encryption on their main systems requires... Marcus stopped. His enhanced brain was processing possibilities faster than any normal human could think. Unless someone could adapt the interface protocols in real time. Someone with natural human flexibility instead of programmed responses. Their eyes met across the chamber, and Kira understood. The core members were enhanced humans, but they were still limited by their programming. She was unenhanced but still adaptable. Together they might be able to do something neither could accomplish alone. What are you proposing? Marcus asked. I'm proposing we don't just escape, Kira said. I'm proposing we win. Above them, the hegemony fleet was already preparing to jump to their location. But in the mining chamber of Zephyria 7, something new was being born. Not just a rescue mission, but a partnership between what humanity had been and what it had become. The real fight was about to begin. The enhancement chamber aboard the human ship Prometheus looked like a torture device mixed with a medical bay. Cables and tubes snaked across the walls, connecting to a chair that was more machine than furniture. Warning signs in a dozen languages covered every surface, but they all said the same thing. Danger, fatal procedure, authorized personnel only. Kira stood in the doorway, watching Marcus and his team prepare the systems. She had an hour to change her mind. An hour before the hegemony fleet arrived. An hour before she either became something more than human or died trying. You don't have to do this, Marcus said without looking up from the control panel. We can still evacuate the most vulnerable prisoners. Some of them will live, and the rest will stay slaves forever, Kira replied. You said it yourself. There are only 43 enhanced humans left in the galaxy. When you're gone, who fights for the next generation of prisoners? Sarah Chen, the stealth specialist, looked up from calibrating the neural interfaces. The enhancement process has a 70% failure rate. Most people die within minutes. Those who survive... She gestured to Marcus's glowing red eyes. We're not exactly human anymore. What happens to those who make it through? Kira asked. Physical strength increases by about 300%, Dr. Elena Rodriguez explained. She was the team's medic, a small woman whose enhanced body could apparently throw a tank. Reaction time drops to superhuman levels. Brain function expands to allow direct interface with most computer systems. Sounds wonderful. What's the downside? Besides the dying part? Viktor Petrov, the heavy weapons specialist, laughed grimly. The enhancements burn through your body like fire. Normal lifespan drops to maybe 5 years. Your emotions get dampened so you can make impossible decisions, and you can never go back to a normal life. We're weapons now, not people. Kira thought about Sol Neth dying slowly in his cell, about Jin, walking around with empty eyes after his conditioning, about all the slaves who would never see freedom if someone didn't fight for them. How long do I have to decide? Marcus finally turned to face her. The hegemony fleet will arrive in 53 minutes. If we're going to try your plan, we need to start the enhancement process now. Through the ship's speakers, another voice called out. Marcus, this is Ghost. I'm monitoring hegemony communications. The fleet approaching us isn't just any fleet. It's Admiral Korth's personal armada. 3 dreadnoughts, 20 battleships, 30 cruisers. If they're sending Korth, they're not planning to take prisoners. Who's Admiral Korth? Kira asked. The hegemony's top military commander, Marcus replied grimly. He's the one who destroyed Earth's colonies. He's the one who created the slave system. If he's coming personally, it means they see us as a real threat. Good, Kira said, sitting down in the enhancement chair. Let's show him how right he is. Marcus hesitated. Kira, there's something else you need to know. The enhancement process will change more than your body. It will change how you think, how you feel. The person who comes out of this chair won't be exactly the same person who went in. Will I still care about saving people? Yes, but will I still want to fight the hegemony? Of course, but you don't understand. Then let's do this. Dr. Rodriguez began attaching neural cables to Kira's head, while Sarah monitored her vital signs. Heart rate elevated but stable. Neural activity normal. Genetic markers show good compatibility with the enhancement matrix. What exactly are you putting in me? Kira asked as more cables connected to her arms and chest. Nanoscale machines that rebuild your body from the inside out, Marcus explained. Biosynthetic muscle fibers to increase strength. Neural accelerators to speed up your thoughts. Quantum processors to let you interface with computer systems. And something else. What? The ability to inspire and coordinate others across species barriers. It's something we discovered by accident during your brain scans. You have a rare genetic trait that could make you the perfect battlefield coordinator. Victor laughed. In other words, you could become the galaxy's first enhanced human general. The machines began to hum. Kira felt a strange tingling sensation as microscopic robots entered her bloodstream and started their work. Beginning enhancement sequence, Dr. Rodriguez announced. Stage 1 neural acceleration. The world suddenly became sharper. Kira could see individual dust particles floating in the air. She could hear Marcus's heartbeat and smell the fear sweat from the human crew. Her mind felt like it was running faster than light. Stage 2. Muscular enhancement. Fire raced through her veins as her muscles were torn down and rebuilt. She gritted her teeth against the pain, focusing on the faces of her fellow slaves back on the planet below. Stage 3. Quantum interface integration. This was the worst part. It felt like someone was rewiring her brain with electricity. For a moment, she could sense every computer system on the ship, and more. Her awareness expanded beyond the Prometheus to touch the communication networks of nearby hegemony facilities. Incredible, she gasped. I can feel their systems. All of them. They're all connected. That's impossible, Sarah said, checking her instruments. The quantum processors shouldn't be that powerful. But Kira was already reaching out with her new abilities, touching the vast network that connected every hegemony facility in the sector. She could feel the slave ships in orbit around distant planets, the prison camps on asteroid bases, the conditioning centers that broke minds and spirits, and she could feel something else. The prisoners themselves, they're all there, she whispered. Every slave in the sector. I can sense them through the hegemony's own surveillance systems. They're watching each other, so I can watch all of them. Stage 4. Biological completion. The machines finished their work and shut down. Kira opened her eyes, and the world looked completely different. Colors were brighter, details were sharper, and she could see patterns in everything around her. The enhanced human's movements, the flow of data through the ship's computers, the fear and hope of every living being within 100 kilometers. How do you feel? Marcus asked. Kira stood up from the chair. Her body felt perfect, like a precision instrument designed for a specific purpose. Her mind was clear and focused in a way it had never been before. But underneath it all, she could feel something burning inside her chest. Not anger or hatred, but something colder and more dangerous. Purpose. I feel like I can save them all, she said. Through the ship's communication system, Ghost's voice crackled with urgency. Marcus, the hegemony fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. 51 ships in attack formation. Admiral Korth is hailing us. Put him through, Marcus ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a reptilian face covered in scars. Admiral Korth looked exactly like what he was, a professional killer who had been murdering innocents for decades. Human terrorists, Korth said, his voice dripping with contempt. You have stolen hegemony property and killed hegemony personnel. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick. Marcus stepped in front of the camera. Admiral Korth, I've been looking forward to meeting you. Marcus Kane. We have studied your attacks on our facilities. Impressive, but pointless. Today your little rebellion ends. You're right about one thing, Marcus replied. Today something ends. But it won't be our rebellion. Korth's eyes narrowed. You have one ship against 51. Your enhanced humans are powerful, but you cannot fight an entire fleet. You're right again, Kira said, stepping up beside Marcus. One ship can't fight 51. But we're not fighting your ships. She reached out with her new abilities, touching the quantum network that connected every hegemony system in the sector. With her enhanced human adaptability, she began rewriting communication protocols in real time. "We're fighting your empire." On planets across the sector, emergency broadcasts began playing on every screen and speaker in every slave facility. But these weren't hegemony propaganda messages. They were something else entirely. Kira's voice, enhanced and amplified by quantum technology, reached every enslaved being in a dozen star systems. "This is Kira Vex, speaking to every prisoner, every slave, every forgotten soul in hegemony space. You have been told that resistance is futile. You have been taught that freedom is impossible. Today we prove them wrong. Today we fight together. Today we take back our lives." The effect was immediate and devastating. On screen after screen, Admiral Korth watched as simultaneous uprisings began on every world in his sector. Slaves were breaking free of their chains, guards were being overwhelmed, and facilities were going dark one by one. "Impossible," Korth whispered. "No," Kira replied, her enhanced voice carrying across space. "Just inevitable. Humans don't accept impossible." The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Korth's face twisted with rage as reports flooded in from across his sector. 17 facilities have gone dark. Slave uprising on Kepler-6, prison break on Titan Station. How is this possible? Kira stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, her enhanced senses reaching across space to coordinate the rebellion she had started. Through the hegemony's own surveillance network, she could see everything. Whispers using their restored telepathy to organize attacks. Kethera warriors breaking out of their cells with their 4 powerful arms. Other enslaved species contributing their unique abilities to the fight. But it wasn't chaos. Every movement was coordinated through her broadcasts. Every attack was timed perfectly. For the first time in galactic history, dozens of different species were fighting as one unified force. "Korth's fleet is moving to attack us," Marcus reported from the tactical station. 20 ships are breaking off to defend the slave facilities, but that still leaves 31 ships versus our one. "Then we need to even the odds," Kira said. She closed her eyes and reached deeper into the hegemony network. Her enhanced mind processed information flows that would have killed a normal human brain. "There," she said, finding what she was looking for. "Korth's flagship is the network hub for his entire fleet. If I can get close enough to interface directly with it..." "You could take control of their weapons," Sarah finished. "Turn their own ships against each other. But first, someone has to get her to that flagship," Victor pointed out. Through 30 ships' worth of defensive fire, Marcus studied the tactical display. "The Corps has trained for this kind of mission our entire existence. We can get her there. At what cost?" Dr. Rodriguez asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer. The Human Reclamation Corps had always been a suicide mission. They had accepted death as the price of freedom. But now for the first time they had a chance to achieve something more than just a single rescue. "Marcus," Ghost's voice came over the comm. "I'm reading massive energy buildups from the enemy fleet. They're preparing to fire everything they have at us." Through the view screen they could see the hegemony ships arranging themselves in a battle formation that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Energy weapons that could melt planets began charging for the attack that would turn the Prometheus into space dust. "All hands, prepare for combat," Marcus announced. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. Every slave in the sector is counting on us." The battle began with a wall of energy that lit up space like an artificial sun. The Prometheus's shields absorbed what they could and dodged the rest, but everyone knew they couldn't survive another barrage like that. "Ghost, take us into the fleet," Marcus ordered. "If we're going down, we're taking as many of them with us as we can." "Wait," Kira said. "I have a better idea." She reached out with her abilities not to the hegemony ships but to something else, something she had sensed during her enhancement but hadn't fully understood until now. The quantum communication network doesn't just connect hegemony facilities, she explained as her consciousness expanded. It connects to the manufacturing systems that build their ships, and those systems are still running. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "Teaching an old network some new tricks." Across the sector, automated shipyards that had been building hegemony vessels for centuries suddenly received new programming. Construction robots that had been creating weapons of oppression began building something else entirely. On Admiral Korth's tactical display, new contacts began appearing. Ships were launching from every major shipyard in the sector, but these weren't hegemony designs. They were something that had never been seen before. Vessels built from hegemony technology but designed with human principles. Fast, adaptable, and crewed by the very slaves who had been building hegemony ships for years. Impossible, Korth said for the third time that day. Those facilities are automated. They can't just change their programming. Someone forgot to tell the slaves working in those shipyards, Kira replied over the open channel. They've been learning hegemony technology for years. They just needed someone to coordinate them. The newly built Liberation fleet engaged Korth's forces from 3 directions at once. Ships crewed by former slaves who knew every weakness in hegemony design. Vessels that had been built in hours but fought with the fury of the oppressed, finally finding their chance for revenge. But the real battle was still between the Prometheus and Korth's flagship. Ghost, get us close to that dreadnought, Marcus ordered. Kira needs to interface with their main computer directly. The Prometheus dove through the chaos of the space battle, dodging friendly and enemy fire alike. Victor's weapons cleared a path through the smaller escort ships while Sarah used her stealth systems to confuse enemy targeting, but the Corps was paying the price for every meter of progress. Dr. Rodriguez was badly injured when an explosion damaged the medical bay. Ghost took hits that left her barely conscious but still flying the ship. Victor's heavy armor was cracked and sparking. Hull breach on Deck 3, someone reported. Life support failing in sections 7 through 12. They were dying, but they were almost there. 50 meters from the flagship, Ghost announced. I can get us alongside, but we'll have to dock manually. Our systems are too damaged for a proper connection. Marcus began putting on a vacuum suit. I'll take Kira across personally. The rest of us will make sure you succeed, Sarah interrupted. That's what we signed up for. The final approach was a nightmare of weapons fire and exploding ships. The Prometheus limped toward Korth's flagship like a wounded animal, bleeding atmosphere and trailing debris. But somehow, impossibly, they made it. Marcus and Kira crossed the gap between ships in a small shuttle that was more holes than hull. They crashed through the flagship's hangar bay and fought their way to the central computer core, leaving a trail of unconscious hegemony soldiers behind them. There, Marcus said, pointing to a massive quantum processing unit. That's the fleet's command center. If you can interface with it. Kira placed her hands on the machine and felt her consciousness expand once again. This time she wasn't just touching the hegemony's communication network. She was becoming part of it. Through the sensors of 50 ships she could see the entire battle. Through the communication arrays, she could coordinate every vessel in the Liberation fleet. Through the weapon systems she could… Admiral Korth, she said, her voice now coming from every speaker on every hegemony ship. Your fleet is mine now. One by one, the hegemony ships stopped firing on the Liberation forces and began targeting each other. Korth's own weapons turned toward his bridge, held back only by his willpower and desperate manual overrides. You cannot do this, Korth screamed. The hegemony has ruled for 1,000 years. We are eternal. Nothing is eternal, Kira replied, especially not slavery. The battle ended not with explosions but with surrender. Faced with their own weapons and overwhelmed by coordinated rebellions across the sector, the remaining hegemony forces laid down their arms. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Marcus found Kira collapsed beside the computer core, her enhanced body pushed beyond its limits. Her eyes had faded from glowing red to a dull gray and her breathing was shallow. The interface was too much, she whispered. Even with the enhancements, connecting to that much technology at once… Don't talk, Marcus said. But they both knew it was too late. The enhancement process had given her the power to save thousands of people, but it had also shortened her life to hours instead of years. Did we win? She asked. Marcus looked at the tactical display, where Liberation ships were already moving to help with uprisings on distant worlds. Former slaves were taking control of hegemony facilities across the sector. The rebellion she had started was spreading beyond their wildest dreams. Yes, he said. We won, Kira smiled. Then it was worth it. She closed her eyes and was still. 6 months later, the memorial ship Defiance drifted in orbit around the former slave world of Zephyria 7. The planet below was green now, transformed by liberated terraforming technology into a garden world for refugees from across the sector. Admiral Marcus Kane, his rank granted by the new Free Sector Alliance, stood before a wall covered in names. The memorial honored every member of the Human Reclamation Corps who had died to make this moment possible. At the top of the list, carved in letters that caught the light, was a simple inscription, Kira Vex. She taught us that being human is not about what you are, but about who you choose to save. Around him, the bridge crew of the Defiance worked at their stations. Humans, Whispers, Kethera, and a dozen other species serving together as equals. The neural dampeners that had once suppressed Marcus's emotions were gone now, removed when the war ended. He could feel hope again and sadness, and something he hadn't experienced in years, pride in what they had built together. Admiral, his communications officer, a young Whisper named Sankek, called out, "We're receiving transmissions from the Outer Rim. More liberation fleets have formed. The rebellion is spreading to other sectors. How many worlds have declared independence?" Marcus asked. 47 in the last month alone, sir. The hegemony is in full retreat across 3 sectors. Marcus nodded. The Human Reclamation Corps was gone,